When you look at the creation part of any art form, you can see the differences in cost to get to a final product. For writers, a computer. Not too bad. For a painter, maybe a little more. Some paint, some brushes, and a canvas. Could be worse. For musicians, maybe even more. Instruments, sound technicians, and maybe a recording studio. Definitely not cheap. And then you have movies, where you need a director, a DP. You need lighting equipment, camera equipment, and a production designer. You need an art decorator, prop master, set decorator. You need a camera operator, a first AC, a second AC, a DIT. You need a first AD, a second AD, a second AD. You need the whole sound department, the whole wardrobe department, the hair and makeup department. And of course, you need all the other unmentioned important jobs that get a movie made. Most importantly being the catering crew. Movies are hard to get made, and along with getting all of these people, you unfortunately usually have to pay them too, as much as people try not to. Studios love money. They always want to make sure a production isn't overspending. And even an incredibly profitable director like James Cameron can have a hard time getting a studio to have some faith in the creative process.
Every film I've ever worked on has gone through, what's it about? Oh, that's really cool. Oh, I really like to make that. Oh, it's going to cost a lot of money. Oh shit, things are going really wrong. Oh my god. This is horrible. Oh, it's great. It's great. Oh, we're making a lot of money.
Of course, not all movies are successful, so studios cut costs where they can, and making a movie becomes a constant struggle between what the creative forces want and what the monetary forces want. And this struggle can be seen in a million different instances, CGI being the most obvious of these. Good CGI obviously looks impressive and real, and nowadays using it is often easier and cheaper than shooting the real thing. But for it to be this good, it takes a lot of money and effort.
Yes, actually I did hump the cash register.
So if a studio doesn't give enough money, which obviously is pretty common, you get a final product like this.
Truck, stupid! What? Truck!
Of course, most people already know about the time and money associated with CGI. It's where productions cut other costs that becomes more interesting.
So Warriors is what I brought.
For example, one of the most common things that gets affected by budget
The O'Connell Guard, the Plum Ugly, the Shirt Tails,
is the environment. In one of my videos, I talked about how much I love the wide shot and how I think it might be underutilized. But these shots can be a lot more expensive. For example, shooting in a desert, this shot probably doesn't cost any more than this shot, because there's really nothing that needs to be set up here. Just place the camera where you want it and boom, we're good to shoot. But then you have wide shots that are filled to the brim with expensive things like this. And even with the budget of this movie being a whopping $52 million, the movie still finds every way it can to keep its costs down. Sure, it puts a bunch of people at the corner and on the crosswalks at the start, so the city feels full. But if you look carefully, these are the only extras in the shot. The rest of the pedestrian areas are blocked by a few very well-placed cars and buses. And then as the car comes around the corner, the camera keeps a tight angle to hide more of the intersection. And then finally, the camera is placed low, so with just a few more cars, we don't see the rest of the street or sidewalks. If you actually look through the shot, there's only about 35 extras and 25 cars. But the whole thing still feels like a full and bustling version of 1960s New York. These angled shots are great at saving money, because they can be used to hide the environment. Things like city shots and bar shots become less expensive, because there's less background that needs to be filled. Still, for lower budget movies, these shots and scenes are usually avoided to begin with. For example, in the 2016 movie Dope, the main character was originally going to be filmed inside of the prom waiting for his date to show up. But it's expensive to have a whole interior styled and then fill it with extras and have all of these extras dressed with the right hair and costumes. So instead, they simplified it and moved it outside. The movie still gets to show you his feeling of loneliness here, but at a fraction of the cost. And I guess that's why I thought this topic was of interest. Because in so many movies, you're seeing techniques that are just as much there for monetary reasons as they are for artistic reasons.
Drink. Car bombs in the fucking kitchen!
For example, in lower budget films, party scenes are often shot with long lenses, because with just a little bit of added sound, you can make 10 extras sort of feel like a full room. Still, filmmaking tricks only go so far, and if you don't have the money to shoot something, it usually gets cut from the script or changed dramatically. To some directors, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Ingmar Bergman comes to mind as a director who frequently preferred to focus on just a few characters and a few locations.
Hennes mor är död och hennes far rumlar med oredliga kumpaner.
So even with lower budgets, he still got to make the films he wanted to. Still, since the death of the mid-budget movie, most modern films usually have pretty low budgets and are forced to shoot either inside or in more isolated locations, or with techniques like this. Maybe I'm crazy, but shots like this or this seem less common than they used to be. And I don't know about you guys, but these are some of my favorite shots. In any movies. And the thing that gets cut most often when budgeting a script are shooting days, which means less time for setups, or less shots, or less time spent on each shot. And when you couple this with all of the issues that come up during shooting,
see, that's what I think it is, Damien. I think it's the line.
Yeah.
you're left with a movie and a script that's being held back. As the famous poet T.S. Eliot put it, there's the ideal and there's the reality, and between them falls the shadow. And that shadow is usually a lack of some cold, hard cash. Of course, sometimes maybe a director has a little too much money.
Okay, I'm looking around, and charge.
The great director Akira Kurosawa was once asked why he had chosen the specific framing for a shot, and he responded that if he had panned the camera 1 inch to the left, we'd see a factory, and if he had panned 1 inch to the right, we'd see the airport. Filmmaking is an art form born of compromise. More than painting, more than writing, and more than music, movies have the ugliest path to creation.
You're sitting there like a fucking baboon.
And I can't help but feel like it's a shame that so many great stories get relegated to a tier of filmmaking that requires constant compromise. But I guess it is a business first. To quote Sidney Lumet, only the person who's made the movie knows what goes into the decisions that result in any piece of work, and they can be anything from divine inspiration to budget requirements.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm a delivery man, and I have some cream for you.
Wow, that cream looks
And I think that
heavy.
sums it up pretty well. Thanks for watching.